From all of the above, we can conclude that there are two scripts that play themselves out with the mitzvah of Pidyon HaBen. And by applying the two scripts to the narrative, we can respond to the core issue raised at the beginning of the SICHAH as to why the Rosh, who basically approaches the Gemara text from a halachic perspective, did he place the decision that the father makes both the bracha of Al Pidyon HaBen and Shechiyanu with Hilchat Pesach rather than with Masechet Bechorot, a Masechet that deals with the Matnat Kahuna apropos to the firstborn of animal and firstborn of man. This difficulty becomes more pronounced in light of the fact that the halacha has been included in Masechet Bechorot, and Masechet Psachim thereby becomes a repetition and somewhat superfluous. We shall also be in a position to develop an explanation as to why this entire incident involving Rab Simlai has been included into Masechet Psachim. MITZVAT PIDYON HaBEN, as presented in Sefer Bamidbar, links the mitzvah to the fact that Shevet Levi, and specifically the Kohanim, replaced the Bechor of each family as the intermediary between Bnei Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ani hinni lakachti et haLevim tachat kol Bechor peterechem ibnei Yisrael, which led into the requirement to Pado Tifdeh et kol Bechor ha'adam. On account of the Kedusha attached to the Bechor upon birth, there is the obligation to redeem the Bechor through the payment of 5 slaim to the Kohen. The second script can be found in Shmot 13, where the pasuk states, V'chol Bechor Adam bevanecha tifteh, you are obligated to redeem each and every firstborn, and should your child ask for an explanation as to why this is being done, your response will be that during the 10th plague, God killed the firstborn of the Egyptians, and Al-Kain, and therefore, as a commemorative act, I offer the firstborn of the animals as a sacrifice to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'chol Bechor Banai Yevdeh, however, the firstborn of my children I shall redeem. And while one might wish to argue multiple authorship, there in effect is no contradiction between the two scripts. The Bamidbar script is post-Egel, post the decision to demote the Bechor as the intermediary between man and God, to be replaced by the Kohanim. The Shmot script, however, is a pre-Egel situation, if you wish, Plan A, which on account of the Egel was discarded in favor of Plan B. As noted earlier, while both the Bavli and the Yerushalmi trace the core obligation for MITZVAT PIDYON HaBEN to Shmot 13:13, there is a fundamental difference between them. The Bavli maintains that the mitzvah from the very outset was given to the father, and hence the mitzvah remains a post-bar mitzvah of the child, whereas the Yerushalmi maintains that from the outset the mitzvah was given to the child, temporarily placed into the hands of the father, but upon reaching bar mitzvah, the mitzvah reverts back to the child, who takes priority over the father. According to the Bavli, MITZVAT PIDYON HaBEN is linked into Yetziat Mitzrayim and reflects God's redemption of the Bnei Yisrael, whereas the Talmud Yerushalmi would maintain that the mitzvah of Pidyon HaBEn is essentially part of the Matnat Kahuna. With this, we can appreciate why the incident involving Rabbi Simlai was inserted into the concluding segment of Masechet Psachim, and the reason is because of the intrinsic link between Pidyon HaBEn and Yetziat Mitzrayim. To appreciate this link, we need to return back to Shmot Perek 4. In Shmot Perek 4 we have the incident of the burning bush, in which God informs Moshe of the fact that after 210 years of Galut, the promises made at the Brit Ben Habatarim were about to unfold. Moshe was to be the one to lead the Bnei Israel out of Egypt. Moshe returns back to Midian, awaiting further instructions which eventually do come. He sets out, and midway he receives a revelation in which he is told to go to Pharaoh and inform him of the fact that B'ni Bechori Yisrael, B'nai Yisrael, are my, God's, firstborn child, and demand that Shalach et bani v'yavduni, release that child from servitude so that they, the Bnei Israel, should serve me. And this came along with a threat. V'tma'in l'shalcho, should you refuse to release them, hineni anochi hareget bincha b'chorecha, in retaliation, I am going to strike down your firstborn son, not just yours, but the firstborn of the entire nation. And this is the underlying concept of MITZVAT PIDYON HaBEN from the standpoint of the Bavli. Just as God redeemed the Bnei Israel, his Bechor, Al Cain, so too Bnei Israel are obligated to redeem each and every Bechor that is born into each family.